So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the following. Y equals sine of x plus 2 pi minus 1. And notice we need to state the amplitude, the period, the frequency, the phase shift, and the vertical shift. Okay, then we're going to graph two full periods of the function. And so first of all, let's go and start with the amplitude. What's the amplitude of this?
1.
1. The reason why it's 1 is because there's nothing in front of the sine. Okay. So the period. What's the period going to be?
2 pi over 1.
1. So the period is 2 pi. Where does the 1 come from? That's the number in front of the x. Frequency is going to be what?
1 over 2 pi.
1 over 2 pi, because remember the frequency is nothing more than the reciprocal of the period. The phase shift is the left or right shift. What do you do?
Left 2.
I go to the left
2 pi.
2 pi. Oops. It's right in the... And then the vertical shift. What am I going to do for my vertical shift?
Down 1.
Down 1. Good. So the vertical shift, remember, is going to be exactly the same as what this is here. The phase shift is going to be the opposite. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and graph that. So first of all, if I go ahead and start with an x and a y axis, okay? I think I might get rid of that grid because I think it'll be easier without that. Here I went and put all that grid in. There we go. I think that'll be better. Okay, so then now I'm going to go ahead and start with my graph here. I'm going to go ahead and start with my axes here. And so the first thing I need to do is shift to the left. How far?
2 pi.
2 pi. So I'm going to go all the way over here. Here's negative 2 pi. And so this is going to be my new y-axis. Where else am I going to shift?
Down 1.
Down 1. So I'm going to go down here to negative 1.
It's like your new graph right
So there are my new axes right there. Now the period is 2 pi. So what I'm going to do then is still cut this into half and then cut each of those. So each tick mark is going to be how far? Yep, negative pi over 2. And then remember I'm going to go out here to 4 more. So there's my starting point. So where does sine start at?
0.
0. Where will it go to next?
Up.
Up 1. Where will it go to next? Down to here. Where will it go to next? Okay, now this needs to be, what will this value actually be down here? Negative 2. Where will it be at next? Negative 1. So that's what your graph looks like. Yeah. Yep, that's your new origin. If you didn't catch that, this right here is your new origin. So basically, it's like you're taking the graph and you're putting it like on a transparency or something you can copy, and you're sliding it down here. Questions? Let's look at this one. Ooh. Yeah. Nice.
This is a continuing all.
Okay. So I first need to start with the amplitude is what, folks? 1/2. The period will be what? 2 pi divided by 1/4, which is really 8 pi. What's the frequency? 1 over 8 pi. Okay, what shifts do I do?
We have to say right pi over 2.
Right pi over 2. Down 3. So basically, it's like you're working left to right through the equation. Okay, because you start at your leftmost point, which is your amplitude, which is right here. Then you move here, which is your period. Your frequency deals with your period. Then you move here, which is your left and right shift. And then you move here, which is your up and down shift. So you work your way left to right through the equation. So let's go and start graphing that. Yeah, that's going to be lots of fun. Okay.
Oh, not at all.
Let's go and start with your axes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to shift to the right, pi over 2. Now, it's got a period of 8 pi. So if you remember how we did this before, I went all the way, in this case, I'm going to go all the way out here. And so I know that this distance here has got to be 8 pi. So what does this number need to be? Yeah. It's going to be 8 pi plus pi over 2.
Oh,
So 17 pi over 2. Now, for those of you wondering, how did I get that so quick? This is a half, right? Pi over 2 is 1/2. This is 8. So if you take 1/2 and add it to 8, you really get 8 and 1/2. If I write 8 and 1/2 as an improper, I get 17 pi over 2. So, example, if this would have been, instead of 8, if that would have been 4 pi, it would have been 4 1/2, which would have been 9 pi over 2. So see, that's just kind of one of those little mental math things. So let's break that. So if that's 8 pi, what are each of these increments here going to be? What is this increment here going to be? 2 pi. Okay. So anyway, that's just kind of a little tidbit. So now I need to shift it down 3. So I've already shifted it to the right. Now I'm going to go down 3. So the new crosshairs is going to be your origin. So here's your new origin right down here. Okay, so let's look at the problem. The problem is a cosine. Cosine means it always starts at a high point. So here's my new origin right here. So my amplitude is how high? 1/2. So I'm going to go up here and place a dot about 1/2 up. Where's your next dot going to be?
0,
Yep. Right over here. Where's the next dot going to be? Down about -1/2. Okay. Next one. And where's your next one? Yep. So 2 more. Another set of. So I'm going to go back down. Up, down. Up. And up. And there you go. Questions? Think you can handle that? Okay, last thing I need you to do is turn to page 31 in your book. Okay? We're going to look at page 31 in your book. So number 31 in your book on page 265.
You said page 31 on.
Actually,
number 31.
let's go ahead and look at number 33 instead. So number 33 in your book says to write an equation that corresponds to each graph. So we're looking at 33. So what I need to do here is I need to figure out what graph I'm dealing with. If you notice that graph as it is not centered at the origin. Okay. So the easiest way to figure out what has been done is it goes as high as 3, as low as -1, right? So the best thing to do here is to average those. Find out what number is exactly in the middle. So this is your high. This is your low. So what number would be in the middle?
1.
1. So really what you've had to do to this graph is you've had to shift it up 1. So that's what's I'm going to take into account. So now if at 1 is where my new point is, what's my amplitude in this graph? What's your amplitude in the graph?
4.
Mm,
2.
2. Now for those of you wondering how is it 2, remember the amplitude is half the distance from top to bottom. So top to bottom is 4, so half of that would be 2. And then last but not least, I need to figure out what the period is. So the easiest way to figure period is go successive peak to successive peak. So successive peak to successive peak. And 33?
1
Pi over
I was
2.
at 32, so that's my problem all the time.
And last but not least, is it a sine or a cosine graph?
Cosine.
Why is it cosine?
Starts at the
Starts at a high point, so it is cosine. So now the period is pi over 2, okay? The 3 on 33, that's as high as it goes. It goes to 0.3.
No, the period.
The period is from peak to peak, and so if you look at the successive high point to high point, at 0 it's at 3, the next time it's at 3 is at pi over 2.
Oh, okay.
So then now, in order to write my equation, if you remember, I need to know A, which is what I've got. This is A. I need to know B. I don't know B. So that's what you need to find. Okay, so I need to set that equal to 2 pi over B. And I need to find B right here. So to find B, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to cross multiply. So here I get pi times B equals what? 4 pi. So divide both sides by pi. What does B equal? 4. So I've got B. That's good. I've got my shift right here, and I know it's a cosine graph. So let's put that all together. So first of all, y equals, what number will come first? 2. Good. 2 cosine. What number comes next? 4. Yep, 4x. And then last but not least, I have to do a shift of up 1. So I'm going to go ahead and do plus 1. And there you go. There's not a horizontal shift in this because it starts at a high point. And I will tell you right now, on all of the graphs, you will not have a horizontal shift. Okay? So 31 through 34, there are no horizontal shifts. So you should be able to finish your assignment.